Here's the thing. I'm 54 years old, which means I went to high school in the 1970s. I know too much stuff, man. I know too much stuff about discotheque, angel flight bell-bottom pants, puka shells, giant lapel shirts, idolizing Disco King John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever, listening to KC and the Sunshine Band. I have to talk about this because I wore those clothes. And disco was something that I had to get through it. I had to survive it, and I'm here to give you some wisdom about the 1970s. Uh, Very scary stuff. The 70s. What can I remember about that? It was a time of the human potential movement. If you had a dream, you could fulfill it. I remember Henry Winkler, who became famous from Happy Days, was interviewed because he was the big star of the United States of America. He was probably bigger than John Travolta from Welcome Back, Kotter. He was so big, they interviewed him, and Henry Winkler, who's a very nice man, and I'm sure he's a different man now than he was back in the 70s. He's probably wiser now. But I remember he said, I have a plaque over my fireplace that says, if you have a dream and you really believe in it, you can make it come true. And this was really the mentality of the 1970s. Unlimited human potential. You could fulfill your dreams. There was a show I used to watch called Charlie's Angels. It always disappointed me because even though the women were beautiful, somehow I never saw, I don't want to talk about it, but somehow it let me down. But Kate Jackson, my favorite angel, said in a radio interview, KGO radio, in the 1970s, that she had a similar dream that Henry Winkler had, and that she took a bus from Virginia. That was loud. Hey, she took a bus from Virginia, and she didn't have any prospects, went to the West Coast and became a famous actress. She followed her dream. That was a huge part of the 70s, was unlimited human potential. So it was my 16th birthday. I'm wearing my Angel Flight bell bottoms, my puka shells. I got one of these polo shirts. In the armpit, there's ventilation holes, man. Who thinks of stuff like that? And how could a man of my intelligence, and I'd like to think I'm at least average intelligence, take myself seriously wearing an outfit like that? So I'm standing on the quad. It's in late October. It's my 16th birthday. I'm a junior in high school. When Mary Templeton comes up to me, and she doesn't even really know me that well. I think I might have spoken to her once or twice. She gives me a birthday card. And it says, I open it up and it says, if it feels good, do it. That blew my mind that this attractive 95-pound 16-year-old came up to me, knew it was my birthday, and gave me a birthday card that said, if it feels good, do it. I mean, that pretty much encapsulates the philosophy of the 1970s, which was about just deal with your feelings and forget about evaluation, critique, and analysis. Forget about it. Look at the clothes we used to wear. The aforementioned Angel Flight bell bottoms and the platform shoes and the puka shell necklaces and the gold chains. We would wear tank tops, mesh net tank tops, and we took ourselves seriously. Because the 1970s was all about, if it feels good, do it. Don't think. Don't analyze. Man, that girl's card scared the hell out of me because on one hand, I was so flattered by her card. I was so titillated by this carte blanche to just seize upon your desires in the most unlimited way imaginable. But at the same time, I was terrified by that, and I probably had good reason. Not only was the fashion bad, but here was the drink. Here was the alcoholic beverage of the 70s. It was called Boone Farms Apple Wine. There was just this onslaught of ads, and I think it showed hippie-ish people, connecting and communing and drinking Boone's Farm Apple Wine. And I don't know the background of that company, but if I had to guess, I would say it was probably these guys in suits working at corporate, probably something like Gallo or something, and they they created this quasi hippie communal wine, and the wine was horrible. It was apple Kool-Aid with sugar water that was notorious for giving people headaches and hospitalized them. Uh, Long, horrible, acute hangovers and projectile vomiting. Always make sure you've got your projectile vomiting. The music, the music. If it feels good, do it. There was a song by Earth, Wind, and Fire, our favorite love song for the slow dances at the high school dance. It was called Reasons. The reasons that we're here. We don't know the reasons we're here, but the fact of the matter is we're here, honey. And the love feels good. Don't worry about the reasons. God, Earth, Wind, Fire, that song captured the 70s so wonderfully. We don't know the reasons, but kapow, man, we're together right now, and it feels so good. Don't you worry about the reasons. Don't start exploring existential inquiries. Just seize the moment, man. That was Reasons. There was another song by The Emotions called Don't Ask My Neighbor. You know what, man? If I love you, don't do a background check on me. Don't ask my neighbor. Trust me. That was the 70s. Don't do any background checks. Don't do any evaluations. Don't do any analysis. Just trust. That was the 70s. So I graduated high school, 1979, and the 1980s soon came, and it was pretty much the end of disco. It was pretty much the death of disco. And I remember around 1980, Rodney Dangerfield was featured in the San Francisco Chronicle. It was an interview with this comedian. And it was what fascinates me about 1980 is disco was dying and comedy clubs were flourishing. It was like this, and I think that says something about how the message changed in the popular culture. Whereas in the 70s, we absorbed this if it feels good, do it philosophy with no analysis. The 1980s were in many ways more pessimistic, more ironic, more willing to put the kibosh on this unlimited human potential movement. And I remember Rodney Dangerfield, famous for getting no respect, he made such a sobering interview. It was unbelievable. He said, you know what, man? You never change. What you see is what you get. You're born a certain way, and that's it. Accept it. Don't try to change yourself. What a complete counter argument to the 1970s, Rodney Dangerfield. And it just blew me away when I read that. I go, oh my God, I think he's right. Oh my God, I've never changed. I'm the same guy. My parents say I make the same face that I made when I was a baby in the crib. I've never changed. And by the way, I'm 54. I'm still that same dude from when I was like 2 years old. I think I have the same attitude. Rodney Dangerfield was right. And at the same time, in the early 1980s, there was this guy named David Letterman. And he had a show, and I'd watch him. And he'd come out on the stage, never smiled, complete deadpan irony. And that deadpan irony pretty much said it all. It said that, we live in a world of bullshit, and I'm not putting up with it. And my show is going to be about showing you the bullshit. And the entertainment you receive from my show will be being smart and ironic like me and seeing the bullshit with me. And Letterman took us on that ride for a long time. He had a huge influence on me personally as I was going to college. Music changed in the 1980s, at least the music I listened to. I wasn't listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire anymore or The Emotions. I went to an Echo and the Bunnymen concert in San Francisco in around 1980. And my favorite song, it was like, My Life is the Disease. The song is called The Disease. And Ian McCulloch looks pale and sickly. Later on in the 1980s, one of my favorite albums from The Cure called Disintegration. Talk about a counterpoint to the 1970s. Again, the pale look, the sickly look, and then, the Smiths with the song Girlfriend in a Coma. It was almost like there was the sickliness became part of the 1980s fashion. This look of like we're having this long hangover from all that Boone's Farm apple wine you drunk in the 70s. Now we're paying the price. I mean, the 80s were just a time where we embraced depression and nihilism and hopelessness, and we thought we were so cool and we were so ironic. What a completely different mentality in the 1970s. So, the 1990s comes, and the first thing I think of is Seinfeld. Seinfeld kills that sort of, in a way, it kills that sort of punk nihilism. Seinfeld is all about let's embrace being selfish, irresponsible, perpetual adolescents. Let's let's accumulate sponges and only make sure our dates are sponge worthy. Let's go out with beautiful women, but then dump them if they have some small imperfection, like their hands look a little too masculine or something. They would have contests who could abstain from jacking off the longest. Dude, those people had too much free time on their hands, and we embraced that complete meaningless existence. We wallowed in their irresponsible adolescent narcissism. So that was the 90s, man. And now I'm 54 years old, and I don't have time for any of these lame philosophies. They're all lame in one way or another. I gotta go right now. I gotta do my kettlebell workout. I gotta boil some broccoli and have fish because I weigh too much. And then I gotta pick up my twin daughters at school. That's my life. I don't have time for these lame philosophies. So maybe I'll get on some other decades later. But until then, I am out.